If you drive in America, this might just be the most important warning you hear today. Starting literally right now, several highway rules are being enforced way more aggressively across the United States. And honestly, it's heavily affecting experienced and senior drivers who've been comfortably navigating these roads for decades. We're talking about sudden enforcement changes that are catching people completely off guard. Because look, everyday driving habits, things you probably do without a second thought, could now cost you hundreds of dollars instantly. I mean, something as innocent as holding your phone while you're completely stopped at a red light could get you a hefty fine. And yes, senior drivers are often feeling the biggest impact from this. So before your next drive, you absolutely need to watch this explainer carefully. We're going to make sure you're totally prepared and up to speed. Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're covering 5 major updates: highway merges and construction, hidden impairments and distractions, intersections and pedestrian safety, the new tailgating rules, and finally, debunking the retesting rumor. All right, Section 1, highway merges and construction, or what we can call evolving highway hazards. Okay, here is a huge one. We used to think empty construction zones were safe to just cruise through, right? Because fines were usually only doubled if workers were physically standing there. Well, forget that. Under the new enforcement reality, if those orange construction signs are up, the zone is considered legally active 24/7. That means if you're going just 1 single mile per hour over the speed limit in a completely empty but signed zone, boom, doubled penalties. Officers are strictly enforcing this, workers or no workers. And this brings us to another massive shift: how we merge. Now, a lot of older drivers were taught the old way, to slow down or maybe even stop at the end of an entry ramp before merging. But traffic authorities have completely flipped the script on this. They're now saying that slowing down actually creates dangerous backups and spikes the risk of an accident. The new expectation? You've got to match the highway traffic speed before entering the lane. In fact, if you slow down too much on the ramp, you might literally get a citation for it in some areas. Moving on to Section 2, hidden impairments and distractions. And this goes way beyond just alcohol. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that even if you haven't touched a single drop of alcohol, you aren't necessarily in the clear. Certain everyday prescription meds can actually trigger a DUI charge if they impair your driving. We're talking about really common stuff: sleep aids, anxiety medications, strong pain relievers, because they can seriously mess with your reaction time and judgment. And here's the kicker: officers now have expanded authority in certain situations to ask for a blood or saliva test right on the spot if they suspect you're impaired by these meds. So it's absolutely crucial to chat with your doctor about any side effects before you grab the keys. And distracted driving laws? Yeah, they're getting incredibly strict. In a lot of states, just holding your phone in your hand is a violation. And yes, that includes when you're completely stopped at a red light. No checking your messages while you wait for the green. You are legally expected to use hands-free systems or mounted devices exclusively. And honestly, the cost of missing this detail is steep. Fines for this easily avoidable phone mistake start around $150 in a lot of places, and they jump up fast for repeat offenses. It's probably one of the easiest tickets to avoid getting, but people still make this mistake every single day just out of pure habit. All right, Section 3, intersections and pedestrian safety. Basically, changing city rules. So check out this number: 25 feet. That's the new legal minimum distance you have to maintain when parking near an intersection crosswalk in many areas. What's happening is people are getting slapped with tickets for parking in the exact same spots they've happily used for decades. They just don't realize the required legal distance has quietly gone up, turning their familiar old parking spot into a really sudden, expensive penalty. The rules around pedestrians are tightening up big time, too. The old assumption was kind of that pedestrians had to yield to cars if there was no active traffic signal. Well, not anymore. Under the new enforcement, pedestrians in marked crosswalks have the right of way, period. Failing to yield to them is carrying way harsher consequences now than it ever did in the past. Just how harsh? Well, some states are now handing out fines starting around $200, plus slapping points on your license for these yielding violations. And it gets more serious. Repeat offenses for not yielding might even trigger additional license reviews, which is a real game changer for older drivers specifically. Okay, Section 4, the new tailgating rules. Let's talk about space and liability. So, you probably remember the classic rule of thumb we all learned in driver's ed, right? 1 car length for every 10 miles per hour. Well, actually scratch that. It's officially being replaced by a time-based metric. The new enforcement relies on the 3-second gap rule. You're strongly encouraged to maintain at least a 3-second gap in normal, clear conditions. And of course, you're expected to expand that time buffer significantly when it's raining or visibility is poor. So the crucial point is this: rear-end collisions are increasingly placing automatic fault and liability squarely on the rear driver. If you're tailgating and a crash happens, the law is just far less forgiving now. The expectation is entirely on you to maintain that 3-second gap to avoid liability. And finally, Section 5, debunking the retesting rumor. This is exactly what seniors need to know. Let's clear the air on this one right now, because this idea spread online like wildfire. The rumor states that a new federal law requires automatic driving retests purely based on your age. The reality? At this time, there is absolutely no nationwide federal law mandating this. The federal rumor is false, but that doesn't mean nothing's changing. The truth is, some individual states are actively stepping up their vision tests or changing renewal requirements for older drivers. Because it's all happening at the state level, it's absolutely essential that you check your local DMV rules directly so you aren't caught flat-footed when it's time to renew. So look, these new enforcement rules are clearly catching a lot of drivers by surprise, especially folks who've been driving safely using the exact same habits for literally decades. So I want to leave you with this question to reflect on. Do you think these sudden, stricter laws and hefty fines actually improve our overall road safety, or is this enforcement simply becoming way too aggressive? It's a pretty delicate balance between public safety and everyday practicality, isn't it? Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay aware out there, and as always, drive safely.